Good evening. Here we are, folks. I hope you get your sober on. This is One Sober to Another. I'm Wayne, and I'm an alcoholic. Tonight, you get to hear from Daniel E. Daniel E. is one of my good friends from Germany, and he helped save my life. And today, he's going to talk to you about Alcoholics Anonymous and how it saved his life. And he's not even an alcoholic.
Hello everybody. As Wayne probably introduced me, my name is Daniel. So today I'm going to tell you about my story. I'm going to tell you how Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life, and I'm not an alcoholic. And so let me elaborate on that with you. So I'm going to start back from really how I grew up. It's how everything came to the root of the situation before I found myself in the AA. Alright, so pretty much as a kid, straight off the back, I didn't know my dad. And I didn't see him until I was about 8 years old. And with that being said, until then, my mom, she had boyfriends and this and that. I grew up around a pretty unstable life with unstable male figures in my life. And I didn't know I didn't see good role models other than my uncles. You know, I would say they were definitely the better role models for sure. They seemed like they had their life together, but they were always busy taking care of their own family. So, you know, I wasn't around them all my life, right? And the one stable place that I found myself in that was the most stable is my meemaws, you know. So I'm from the South, that's what I call my grandma. And she really, you know, gave me a level of comfort where I felt like I could be safe there. When I wasn't around my meemaw, when I was somewhere else, you know, even when my dad came into the picture, I still wasn't that comfortable because my mom argued, it was busy, and there was just a lot of chaos going on at home. I won't forget my mom's first and last husband, David. He was really mean to me. Why I never knew or understood. I wanted, you know, I was about 6 or 7. I wanted, you know, a dead role model in my life. You know, I wanted to have that relationship. He had this old truck, and I was like, oh, you know, but he had his own kids of his own that he didn't even talk to and stuff like that. It was a weird situation, and I was really young and I didn't understand it at the time. So anyways, you know, later on in life I found out he was physically abusive. You know, I never saw it for my own eyes. I didn't see my mom get physical with a male with a person until my dad and my mom got back together in 98. And during that time frame, I ended up seeing that one time as a kid. And I just, you know, I told my brother, I was like, oh, we can't go outside right now. Well, to the living room. We were in the kitchen, and it had like the old country houses. They have like, sometimes they have like little doors in the kitchen or whatever. They just kind of open, you know, they don't like lock or whatever. You can just push it. Anyways, and I kind of, you know, creeped it open, and I saw them two going at it and whatnot. And I remember seeing my mom grab an ashtray, smack my dad upside the head with it. You know, they were pushing each other. I mean, it was crazy. And, you know, so I was 8 years old seeing that. I remember, fast forward some to about 2000. I was 10 years old. And my mom had this guy in the house. Immediately, I was like, I don't know you, I don't like you, get out. That was my immediate response as a 10-year-old. And I was the oldest, it was me and my brother. And I didn't want him in my house. I didn't like him. I was mad. And his name was Rick. And Rick played a big part in my life. And he and my mom had been together for a long time. So Rick, something, that I had felt from him, I didn't like him at all. And later on, he seemed a little bit more like, okay, this guy's not that bad, blah, blah, blah. Just maybe get to know him. Maybe he's not like all the other people you met, even your own father, like maybe this person's actually not a dirtbag. Well, later on, my first instincts was correcting him. I reacted probably the right way because he seemed cool, and then he would snap all the time. And during those times, I didn't understand why he was snapping like that. But later on, as I got older, I realized Rick used to drink all the time, and he would always take pills. And this was the environment that I grew up in, of like, when you deal with your problems, that's what you do. You just stuff it down. You do something to make you comfortably numb, like Pink Floyd, and that's it. You just ride that out. That's pretty much how I continued to see that, from 10, and I started doing that myself around the ages of 13 was kind of the start of it. So 13 years old, I remember Rick giving me a beer here and there and this and that, and I had some of my real drink where I got tipsy. 15 is when I really got drunk for the first time. And I liked the feeling of just that comfortably numb. Okay, I see why people do this, because, you don't care. And you're not worried about everything else. So I was cool. I was all right, bet. So whenever I was upset, that's when I would drink. That's when I would do drugs. I'd be like, pressure gets too hard, excuse my language, but fuck this. I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna take a pill, or I'm gonna smoke something, whatever the case was. And I pretty much lived that way for quite some time, till 19. And because I just remember, and Rick constantly, I had a real hard time with him. He was I always said he was my mom's kryptonite, because Rick he was very, never physically, but highly verbally abusive. And for people that say sticks and stones may break your bones and words may never will, I don't know who made that myth up, but words can sink in way deeper than any physical action ever can, in my personal opinion, and I'm pretty sure about everybody else in the world could also attest to that. So that's a fact. The words, hearing that you're nothing, that you're worthless, you never get your shit together type stuff. All those types of things are just bringing you down, and you're a child and you're hearing these things. At some point your brain starts to believe, what this person's saying is true. You end up falling into it, especially when you're hearing it on such a regular basis, whenever that person snaps on you. And that's what would happen. He would, he'd be cool, we'd be really cool and kicking it. I'm like, all right, man, me and Rick, we're finally breaking the waters, we're finally, having a relationship, and next thing you know, done. It's just now he's lashing out at me, and I'm I was never, I never understood what was happening. I never understood why he was so, vulgar with me. And so what am I doing to this guy? And I kept feeling I was in the wrong, whatever the case was. I was blaming myself, okay, well, it was just or like, I don't know, is he crazy? Like I could never figure out what was going on. And so instead of trying to figure it out, I was just using, alcohol and drugs to just cover up my feelings about it. And then as I got older, I was getting more upset and being more mad, well, pretty much regularly, because, here my mom is with this guy. She's seen how he's been in front of us, verbally abusive, whatever, and mostly towards me more than my little brother, and just, just being like a real dick. And it was like, I was like, I don't understand, why my mom is allowing this guy to be this way, because I know that my mom has no problem fighting for us or doing whatever, but for some reason, it was like she was Superman and he was kryptonite, and she was not. It was like however he would talk to her, he had this way of being very different. And it could be, manipulating, of like, convincing someone that it was something else or blah, blah, blah. Or, it's, like it was like somehow, I don't know, Jedi mind trick type stuff. It was wild. And I think like during that time frame, during that time, I was like, forget this dude. This dude is hot trash. He's got to go. Like, that was it. Only thought. Until he was gone, my problems were always there. So, from the ages of 17 to 19, it's probably when I did my heaviest drinking and doing drugs, constantly numbing myself. Any chance I had gotten. I mean, anyways, whether it was stealing from people or whatever, like, I would steal his booze all the time and then lie about it or whatever. Like, I didn't care, especially if it was him. I definitely didn't care. That's how I felt about it. I was like, no, dude, you're the reason why I have these problems. That's exactly how I felt. That was my reaction to it. To fast forward some more, when I was in 2009, I was 19 years old, and I graduated high school. This was probably the lowest pivotal point of my life. Actually, let me go back a little bit. So this is the lowest point of my life here. I was 19. I left my mom's house. I was living with my ex-girlfriend at the time. Still, doing my thing, drinking, doing drugs, definitely still staying that way. I was still upset at the world and everything. I didn't really have much. I didn't feel very much support from my mom, and didn't feel very much support. And like my meemaw was the only person that from when I was really small to, since I can never remember till I was 14, my meemaw was like there for me a good little bit. But after that, she was and talked to, but it was like really hard, and I wasn't always around her as much because she had a lot of health issues. And so we would see her on the weekends sometimes and this and that, good bit, but it was not the same, because I used to, from that ages till I was 14, I was going to school or coming home from school, going to her house is where I would stay at. So I spent like all the time there. So totally different, and like during those time frames, my meemaw basically raised me and my brother. But when I didn't have that, and I felt like I didn't have anything, I didn't have no support, like the girl that I was with at the time was kind of the only thing that was like, have something to hold on to. I remember I learned that I had to go to summer school because I didn't quite graduate, right? So I went to summer school, and during this time frame, me and my girlfriend broke up. Well, she broke up with me. And I was super devastated. because I'm like, this is the only person that was tying me to anything good, or that I felt like that at the time. The only, like, that was my only, like, I felt like it was my only will to live at that moment. And I took a bunch of pills and tried to out myself, essentially. You know, I am grateful that I didn't take enough. I only was out for 24 hours. So my body, I was still breathing and everything. But I was definitely heavily sedated. And then I woke up the next day. As a matter of fact, like literally 24 hours later, it was the same time. So I thought that I closed my eyes for like seconds. Not even. So at that point is when I kind of realized, like, man, I need help. I just didn't know what to do with myself. So I found myself, ended up going to this place to kind of get help. And because I just didn't, you know, I was in a really messed up mental place. You know, all these emotions and things that I've been stuffing in from Rick, you know, from everything, feeling neglected, being told that I wasn't anything, you know, having Rick embarrass me in front of my friends. I won't forget a moment that I had where my best friend Nathan was there, and he like came in and was yelling at me, like came in drunk from a strip club, and he was just like, blah blah blah, you piece of shit, because I forgot to do something. I think it was like the cat litter or something like that. Like I had just forgot to do it. No big deal, right? No. He blew up into it, and it was a whole nother situation. It was like one of the most embarrassing and like little moments that I ever felt, like, you know, so small. And you know, and so there was like a lot of those types of moments that had happened, you know, that I can, you know, that I can't even, it just, there's a lot that was like that. And then, so with that, I ended up getting back. So I had all that stuff held inside, and then ended up just having to figure out what I had to do with myself. And later on, I ended up doing what I had to do. I came back. I did graduate high school. And then I left. I was gone. I was like, man, I'm out of here. I'm not about to, you know, be here in this environment no more, because I realized that that place that I was at, my environment was totally different. And I didn't feel like I had the same problems. I was kind of peeking some of the things and starting to poke in to my issues, you know, my problems and things that I never like had even touched the surface of, you know, or wanted to think about. Right? And then actually during there, and to get in, I wanted to throw this in. So during that time frame, while I was talking about how I was living my life with a therapist, and she highly recommended me, and she was like, look, I think it would be very beneficial for you to check out AA. And I was like, yeah, I'll get right on that. As in, that's not going to happen. So, and I didn't, obviously, because later on I found myself pretty much doing the same thing, but I changed my environment. So when I thought my environment was my issue, it was still, the problems lied within me that I didn't know how to deal with. So now I'm just, here I am, like, whatever. So since I'm used to drinking and doing what I'm doing, I'm just going to continue, because why not? Why do anything different? And that was my mentality during that time frame. So here I am, 19 years old, you know, don't care. Supposed to meet up with this girl who ends up becoming my wife. And, you know, I was supposed to meet up with her at this party. Well, my mindset was, oh, I'm a pregame. I'm going to get ready. I'm going to be ready before I got to be ready. Well, needless to say, about a half a fifth later, in 15 minutes, I won't ever forget looking at that bottle, and it was, it was like dust. The sun was coming down. It was, it was getting dark. I was like, okay, cool. Dusk or dawn. Oh no, my bad. Whatever. Whichever one the sun's setting on. I know I sound silly right now, but either way, I'll figure it out later. But you know what I mean. So, getting back to what I was saying. Getting back to it. I woke up later when I came to. Was in a whole nother house. Not even in the same place. It's dark as crap outside. I think it was like, during that time frame, it was probably like 4:30, whatever, something like that. I don't know. It was, getting close to dark, fall time or whatever. And anywho, when I came back to, like I said, it was like 1 o'clock. So several hours has passed. I have no recognition of what is going on. No clue to what has happened. I'm trying to figure out how I'm at where I'm at, what is going on, because I have no clue. That's when I came back to. And my cousin had his phone in my face. He's like this. He's like, showing me a picture of myself, pretty much just completely trashed on the side of the car. I was trying to drive and trying to do all kinds of crazy things. Like a whole lot of stuff happened. Had no clue. I was just wilding out. And what happened with that situation was really the turning point in my life. I ended up going to AA. I was like, look, I gotta get myself right. This is like, I don't know what else to do. And so I did. I went, and I won't ever forget my first meeting. My buddy, who's still my buddy to this day, and I talk to him all the time, Chris was telling me his story, and it wasn't just telling me, he was doing what I'm doing right now, telling his story to everybody there. And he just really impacted me with his story because it felt so relatable to me. And I was like, man, I was in all these feelings and experiencing all these things and being there and the ups and downs and stuff. And because here I am, a troubled kid who doesn't know anything about taking care of his issues, but he's talking about, oh man, he's working through stuff. He's made amends with people and this and that, and just talking about all that, definitely forgiving, learning to love yourself. I'm like, oh man, like I need help in all those departments. And once I started working the steps and really doing the work, it changed my life. I won't ever forget my sponsor, Matt. He really helped me he helped me out so much. And I know, it's like, he helped me out, and I was getting ready for the Army and stuff like that later on. And I did join. But if it wasn't for those moments turning my life around to, making amends and to really go through the steps, talk about the things that you don't want to talk about that's deep down in the closet, looking for the source of why you're mad. What's the reason that you are the way that you are? What's making you drink? You know, all that stuff, every single thing, and going through all the steps and doing all the work. And, you know, that was, man, it was amazing. And I did make amends, and I forgave Rick for how he was, and realizing in a way, and forgiving myself, and forgiving my mom. And, you know, and just learning, like, life is complicated. And granted, you know, it is hard to forgive people's actions sometimes, or what they do and stuff. But, you know, and then, like, looking into, I learned that Rick also had a crazy childhood. And that was his weird and wily way, showing that he really cared about me. However, you know, definitely not the particular one to use. But I learned to forgive him, and we moved on, and we have a relationship now. It's not you know, better than what we ever had, but, you know, we talk now and then. And same thing, like, with my dad. Just a lot of people. I made amends to, you know, my wife during that time frame, because, you know, I was putting myself first. You know, like, even with that situation, I was supposed to meet her somewhere, you know, and she had to beg, barter, and plead to go, you know, go out and go somewhere, you know, with her parents and stuff, for them to let her do that. Even, you know, she was 18 and I was 19, and here I was not showing up, you know, and that was my first impression. So I really had to prove myself to her, and that I was a caring person. But I could definitely be selfish in the manner of, you know, I was trying to get rid of the pain that I had, and I would put that before anybody, not realizing that I was doing it. So anyways, then later on, after going through the military, I got to my first unit and stuff like that. Before I deployed, I started testing the waters again, see if, hey, is this drinking thing, like, you know, they say if you feel froggy, to go out. You know, I felt different because I was still, you know, building my relationship with my higher power. I was, you know, for me, which is God, having that relationship. You know, I was working on things, I was getting there. And so, and I found out that I was able to have a drink, and I could drink a beer or two, and not have, you know, like, man, I gotta get obliterated or anything like that. Because I wasn't feeling angry. I was, you know, I had a long moment where I broke this habit of drinking through anger, and learning how to deal with my own issues, and how to handle those. And then I deployed. And so I'm gonna get into this part. It gets a little crazy. So deployment happens. Some things happen on deployment that affect me for the rest of my life. When I come back from deployment, it was really hard for me to deal with those things. Now I didn't know how to deal with that, because, like, I learned how to deal with, you know, I guess family matters, the issues, like all the stuff I dealt with before. I knew how to kind of deal with that, but this was something different, you know. There was a situation where I had blamed myself for someone's death, and this person's death, they were about between the ages of 11 and 14. And it took me a very long time. And there was a couple other things. I mean, well, there's a few other things that, you know, I was really that also led to me kind of going back to that where I had started, where I ended up going, I found myself, with my buddies, and here I am. I'm not working any steps. I'm not building my relationship with God anymore at this point. I'm not doing anything. So I'm just sitting here. I'm not reflecting. I'm not trying to make myself better. I'm just stalemate. I'm just sitting here. And because I say this and explaining the story, because it lets you know that it's a continuous thing. You continuously have to work your path and continue to move forward, because if you don't, you can find yourself going right back to square one, because it's natural for, we're all humans are creatures of habit. So when all else fails and nothing is happening, you're going to go straight back to what you were doing. Whatever you did before that you have the most longevity in your life, that's what you're going to go back to. It's 1,000% fact. And that's exactly what happened to me. I ended up, when I go out with my buddies that I deployed with, we were all doing the same thing, and that didn't help the situation either, because it encouraged it, So here we are, we're all drinking a lot, and every time, because I'm just, I'm numbing my pain of how I feel, because I can't forgive myself. And I'm not doing anything about it. And it got to a point where, it was about to really destroy my marriage. And it took a lot of time. But I ended up getting therapy and working through that, and started working through these problems, because these problems were way out there. In comparison, and that's how I thought. I was like, the other stuff, I could deal with that, but I was like, I don't know how to deal with this. I have no clue. And really, in all reality, you deal with it the same way you would anything else. You still have to approach it, and you have to deal with it. And sometimes, it might not feel that way, because you're like, man, this is different. It's a higher scale. It's, at the end of the day, every problem's the same. There's a solution at the end of it, and that you still have to work through any problem, no matter what level of difficulty it is. You start it off the same. You still go through there, you still pull out the weeds, you still take everything, and you build on it, and then you start, to get through it, and then realize what the solution is. You realize that, it gets resolved. So just sometimes it might take a little bit more work, because there's more things that's involved into it, because it's more difficult, or whatever the case is. But at the end of the day, it's all the same. Getting back, I finally, got a handle on that. And then once I did, I noticed my drinking, everything changed back to normal way it was before deployment, where I was only drinking, a couple beers or here and there, whatever the case is. I was drinking normal. I wasn't, my thought in my head wasn't oh, I'm going to get wasted. That wasn't it. I was I wanted to have a beer and, whatever, but that was it. And it was because I was continuously working on myself, and I knew I was working on those problems, and that wasn't the answer to feeling comfortably numb, or being the Terminator, a person that's on a mission, but he has no feelings, he doesn't feel love, doesn't feel anything, and you're not giving anything back. You're just on wherever you're going, and you're doing it, But there was at points in my life that I felt like I had no mission, so I'm this thoughtless, heartless and unemotional person, to my wife, who was going through pregnancy and this and that. And, there was a lot of things that, she had to deal with, and I had to make amends later on, in life for, those things, because still have to do, still have to work the steps all the time, and all those things come into play. And after that, once I got that, I was able to forgive myself for that situation and accept things of that things happen the way they do sometimes, and there's a reason, and this is what I accepted and realized that in life there's things that we can and cannot control, and sometimes it is extremely hard to accept what we can't control, and we always want to put a finger on it, like, oh, it was this person's fault, or it was my fault, or blah blah blah. Sometimes it has nothing to do with any of those things, and it just happens, and it's just it is what it is, and there's no way that we could have controlled it. We have to accept that, and that took me a long time to accept that situation in the way it was, and and anyway. And since then, I've been pretty successful in my life. My relationship with God has gotten extremely and abundantly strong. And is life perfect? By no means, life is perfect. But do I know how to deal with my situations and not want to jump to booze or drugs or anything like that? To comfortably numb myself? Absolutely. I sure do handle my problems, and without having to do all that. And all that I give thanks to Alcoholics Anonymous. If I never walked through those doors, I would never be where I'm at today. And that's 100,000% fact. If it wasn't for my higher power, God knew exactly, driving me there would bring me to where I'm at today. And I'm grateful for that. And I will never forget. And all those things that I learned from there, I use them in life because, they're amazing and wonderful tools. So even if you're a person that's just struggling and you're using substance or whatever the case is, but even though you don't feel like maybe you're quite an alcoholic or whatever, like it doesn't hurt to walk yourself into some doors, man, because I tell you what, you're not going to regret what you're going to learn. And and figure it out later down the road, whether you are or aren't. But the tools that you're going to have in your pocket to deal with life is going to be bigger than anything you've ever had before. So I'm Daniel. That's my story, and I hope that helps you all. And I just want to thank you, Wayne, for letting me say my 2 cents and tell my story. Anyways, thank you so much, and y'all have a wonderful day. Toodaloo.